All right, today we're going to do a workout that has 5 units. We'll do a gentle core warm-up, some cardio warm-up, some strength training, and then we're going to work mostly on blocks and strikes. We're going to do some formal traditional martial arts blocks and strikes and some applied sort of boxing style blocks and strikes. So let's start off with the gentle core warm-up. I'll show you what it is. I'll put up the slide at the end so you can do it again. So these are cat-cows, really starting in tabletop position, trying to really make your back convex and then concave. Great warm-up for your back, especially if you've been sitting around on the couch all week and your back's a little bit stiff. Yeah, so really flexion and extension on the back muscles there, really working it out. Next up, we're going to do what I call 2-point extensions, which is from this tabletop position. You're going to take an opposite hand and leg and bring your knee to touch your elbow underneath you, and then back out straight, trying to keep your back as straight as possible along the ground as you do it, and really crunching in as you bring your knee and elbow to meet each other. You'll see on this side I'm leaning a little bit to the left. That's suboptimal. Ideally, you're keeping your back nice and straight. And the more you really crunch in on the inside, the better ab workout you'll get through the whole thing. Next up is sort of the reverse of that. You're going to be lying on your back, and the same thing, opposite side extension, so right hand, left foot, all the way out, not touching the ground, so you're using your core to stabilize yourself as you reach out. While you're doing this, trying to keep your back completely flat against the ground, and feeling that nice, gentle, but good core and back warm up. All right, go ahead and pause here and come back when you complete that. All right, next into some cardio warm up. Get a timer, or I use a free app called Interval Timer to do this. We're gonna do 1 minute on and then 30 seconds off of each of these exercises. First exercise is inchworm walkout. So you're gonna start down by reaching down towards your toes, nice stretch, and then walk your hands as far out as you can without collapsing your upper body, and then walk those hands right back, just back and forth for 1 minute. And then take a break for 30 seconds. Next drill is going to be hip switches, classic groundwork drill. You're going to start from all fours and kick one leg through the opposite side as you're switching your hips and ideally putting your chest all the way up towards the ceiling. You can see here I'm being lazy about it and not putting my chest all the way up towards the ceiling, but that's the next drill. Next one's going to be squats with knee lifts. So squat all the way down, choose one side, and basically do a shin block on that side. Next up, as I'm checking to see what's next, here is you're going to step back into a lunge and then bring that foot up to a knee. So balance exercise in addition to leg exercise there. Go ahead and do 30 seconds on one leg and 30 seconds on the other leg. That way you're getting sort of maximal warm up by using one side completely and then the other side completely. Coming up next, the next drill we're going to do is low plank around the world. If you can, holding yourself just off the ground and making little tiny circles around. This is hard. You can make it easier by either going down to your knees or by going to your forearms. And if you can still do it on your forearms, try the around the world. That'll hit different parts around your rotator cuff. I'm showing here around your knees. If that's too hard, just hold the plank as best you can. Next exercise is going to be 3 direction lunges. So what you're going to do is all on one side for 30 seconds. You're going to step forward into a lunge, sideways into a lunge, and then backwards into a lunge. So forward, sideways, and backwards. And I'll show you this from the other view in a second. Here's the front view here. So front lunge, side lunge, back lunge. All right, and the last drill here is going to be stepping forward into a lunge and back into a reap. So from here, you're really trying to pivot from the hips. If you need to put your hand down, you can. But that same leg that stepped forward is going to then reap all the way up. All right, pause here, complete that. If you're really ambitious, you can do 2 sets through. All right, now we're going to do some strength training. For this, you're going to need 2 chairs, hopefully stable ones. You see mine here are not completely stable. So first up, you're just going to do some chair push-ups. This lets you get sort of really nice extension on the pecs. I actually find it easier than normal push-ups. If this is too hard for you, you can always go down to your knees to do the easy version. If you're on your knees, still try to keep your back nice and straight and really squeezing your pecs together as you push up away from it. Next up is going to be dips. I'm moving my chairs around here because I found my chairs were not stable in dips in the position that they were in for push-ups. So feel free to adjust as you need to. From here, I'm going to sit my legs out forward and gently bend my elbows down. You can see I had a wobbly chair there. I had to adjust a little bit. This is the harder version. If you want the easier version, you can bring your legs in, and then you can sort of adjust how much you're assisting yourself with your legs to help start building the muscles in that direction. And the final exercise in this set is going to be pikes. This one, you may need to put the chair against a wall if it's not stable. Here what you're going to do is you're going to put your feet up on the chair and hands down on the ground, and you're going to try to get your hips above your shoulders, above your hands, in as vertical position as you can. And basically you're doing press-ups, or sort of vertical push-ups here. This is hard. These are not muscles we often use on a regular basis. If you want to make it easier, what you can do is put your knees on the chair instead. Again, still trying to keep your hips as far over your shoulders as you can, and that'll, with your knees up, that'll still work those same muscle groups. So the point here is try to do 10 reps each, going through the circuit 3 times, or as best you can. All right, on to some techniques for the day. We're going to do some formal blocks and strikes. We'll do 2 different sets here. The first one's going to be in a horse stance. So that's a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, bending your knees, sitting your butt back, but trying to tilt your hips underneath you, pull your hips underneath you a little bit so you're sitting up nice and straight. From here, you should be able to move your arms around while still keeping your body nice and upright. First thing we're going to do is punches from here. With one hand, the punching hand, you want it sort of right in front of your sternum. The other hand is tucked in right at your ribs. And you're basically just going to switch sides. As that punch comes out, it's going to stay fist up for a little bit and turn over at the last minute. And as you're doing this, you're squeezing the other elbow back behind you. So as you're pushing forward, you're also pulling backwards with the opposite arm. Back and forth here. We'll end up doing 10 each side, I think. Yeah, so that's a motioning there. Really pull back with the non-punching arm is still being active on the pullback. Here's a slightly different angle for you. Those punches coming right at your own sternum level, straight out and straight back as best as you can. Those are the punches. We're also going to do blocks. First one we're going to do is down block. That's here. I like to keep a slight bend in my elbow. Again, still chambering in on the other side. And then the setup for this is you bring your other arm up across your head. Like I always thought of it like you're answering a phone upside down. And then that comes sort of diagonally down across your body. So you can see you reach up and strike down. And as you do, the other hand comes in and tucks into your ribs. Very similar motion here for the next block, which is going to be up block. I'm going to change the camera angle here. Or actually, I just went down to my knees. So you can see, so up block, you obviously want to block something that's coming up your head. You want it above your head and in front of your head. If it's just above your head, obviously something can come down over it. If it's just over your head, something can still hit you in the face. So you want sort of a diagonal 1 or 2 fists away diagonally from the top of your head. And you also want to block with your mid-forearm above your head. So you don't want it on your fist or your elbow. You want somewhere mid-forearm right above your head and keeping at an angle so if something hits it, it'll slide off. So you can see from here I'm reaching across like I'm drawing a sword and then pulling it up diagonally across my body up to the top. As you do this from the side, you want to sort of scoop along your body and not windshield wipers. You can see I'm keeping it pretty close to my body and then extending out at the last minute. That helps engage those muscles. You don't want to do a windshield wiper where your hand is out away from your body the whole time. Keep it in tight and then extend at the last minute into the block. That's up block. In out block, similar to those other ones, I'm reaching across like I'm drawing a sword and then bringing it out. Again, scooping across my body and extending out. I'll give you a sideways version in a moment where you can see where it is. I want about a 45-degree angle on my forearm. You can see there I'm not completely extended, I'm not 90 degrees, but I'm somewhere in between. And you can see I'm sort of pulling it across my body and then extending out, almost like I'm back knuckle, like I'm hitting someone with my knuckles in front of me. And again, keeping the non-blocking arm tucked in and actively pulling back. And the last one is an out to in block. This is sort of the oddball. It feels a little different. The chamber here is up, answering the phone to the outside, and then pulling diagonally across your body. Again, in about the same angle as the in to out block, but I'm pulling it across my body, out to inside rather than in to out. Here's the sideways version of that. Great, so try each of those 10 times each side, and we'll come back for a little bit more. So next we're going to switch from that static lower body horse stance to a more active upper body where we're pushing into forward front stance. So from the horse stance, you're essentially going to shift forward. I'm going about 45 degrees out to one side, and I'm extending my back leg, pushing my hips forward in that direction and letting my front leg bend. So you can see I'm extending, pushing forward from the horse stance, 45 degrees to one side, and then 45 degrees to the other. As you're doing this, I'm trying to make sure that my hips are still underneath me, my shoulders are still up, and I'm not leaning forward. You can, of course, add punches onto this. So here's the reverse punch. You can see it's about 45 degrees to either side, and I'm using the push off the ground to drive that punch forward. And of course, you can do this with blocks. Also, next, and same thing, down block here. And out blocks. I'm actually leaning a little bit farther forward than I'd like at this point. So always good to video yourself and watch yourself, see what things you're doing wrong. Good, all right, up block. Out in block again is the sort of goofball here, where it'll feel a little bit weird to do it static, but still good to work on that coordination of moving side to side. All right, try 10 of those each side. All right, next we're gonna move into some applied, like boxing style footwork. So you want your feet about shoulder width apart, knees bent, hips tucked underneath you again, and hands up. And you should have weight about evenly on both feet, so you should be able to sort of move around, taking a step. These are the short step we work on in class. Step, step. In between each of the steps, you should feel right back into that spot, weight on both feet, ready to move either side. First thing we're going to do is just footwork shadow boxing. So you're just going to move around the room, pivoting, stepping. We'll do 1 minute with the left side forward and then 1 minute with the right side forward. Again, pausing every once in a while, making sure your feet are back underneath you. You haven't turned sideways. You haven't shifted the weight all onto one foot or the other, just moving around nice and easy. And of course, second minute, you'll switch and have right foot forward, side to side. Then we're going to add jabs and crosses onto it. So remember, jab is the punch off the front side. You want a little bit of turn with the jab, and cross is the punch off the back one. You want actually quite a bit of turns. You turn your foot, your knee, your hip, your shoulder, and then punch. You want to keep your upper body upright as you're doing this. So I'm pushing from the ground, pushing my hip forward. I'm just showing you a couple different angles here. So jab with a little bit of turn, cross with quite a bit of turn, but still keeping my shoulders upright. Not yet. I'm showing you I'm turning side to side. I'm not leaning forward. So what I want to do is have a slight turn side to side, but I don't want to lean forward like that. That'll throw you off balance. So from here, we're going to do shadow boxing again, footwork, and just every couple steps, as it feels natural, do a jab or a jab cross combination. You know, step, step, pivot, jab cross, step, pivot, jab cross. Again, we'll do a minute on one side and a minute on the other. Nice and gentle, you're just playing around with it. Okay, next up, we'll do some more footwork. This is a particular footwork pattern that I really like that I got from Fight Tips YouTube channel, which is a great YouTube channel to watch. It's a particular pattern, but I think it really works nicely on hand and foot coordination. So the first move is what you call the probing jab, which is I'm sort of stepping forward with my front foot and jabbing, but I'm not going to follow it up. I'm going to pop right back. So jab and pop right back. And you can do this on both sides, right? And the idea here is trying to have that foot step right as you get to full extension with the jab. The next move is a retreating jab, sort of the opposite thing. So I'm going to step back with my back foot and punch as I step back, but keeping my front foot where it is. You can optionally try to get your head offline as you're doing the jab here. So that was the retreating step. So you have advancing step or retreating step. The next one is a pivot cross. So you just did your retreating step, you're going to do a pivot cross. This is just our standard cross, so make sure you're pivoting with the knee, turning with the body into the cross. The next step is a stepping forward, jab, cross, advancing jab, cross. That's our normal like short step jab, cross going forward. You should probably be familiar with that. Jab, cross, jab, cross. The next one's going to be a retreating jab cross, where you're going to do it. This is different from a normal footwork. You're actually going to jab and step back with the front leg first, sort of in line with the second one, and then step back into the cross. So jab and step, here I'm backing up into the, jab and step back, and then step back into the cross. So jab, step back, cross, step back, jab, cross, retreating jab, cross. And the final one is a switch punch to switch stances. So you're going to do what would be a jab, but then switch stances as you do it. As you switch stances, you want to basically slide along the ground. So you're not just stepping, and nor do you want to jump up in the air. You want to sort of smoothly and quickly pivot sides back and forth. So from here, I'm going to throw what would be a jab on the left side, but end up in a right side stance. Or on the other side, obviously a jab on the right side. So whether you think of it as a jab or a cross, it sort of doesn't matter. You're going to punch with what starts as the front hand and end up as the rear hand. This then sets you up in the other stance, and you can do the whole pattern again on the other side. So the whole pattern is step forward, step back jab, cross, advancing jab, cross, retreating jab, cross, and then switch. Advancing jab, retreating jab, cross, advance cross, jab, cross, sorry, retreat jab, cross, and switch. Advance jab, retreat jab, I forgot the cross there, retreating jab, cross, and switch. Again, it's not, each individual step isn't very complicated, but I think the pattern itself is complicated enough and has you thinking about your hands and feet in coordination in a way that I think is really nice. So it's not easy, but give it a try a couple times through each side. And then when you're done with that, what we're going to do is two more rounds of shadow boxing, which is basically you moving around and throwing punches. But see if you can throw in some of those steps that we just worked on, the advancing jab cross, the retreating jab cross, the probing step, the retreating jab, as you're pivoting around, moving around the space sort of as freely as you can. So try 2 minutes of that, and that'll be it. All right, here's the list for you to work on as you're doing it. All right, thanks guys. Hope you had a good workout, and see you next time. Stay safe.